You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
Your home for healthy masculinity. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
What's up?
It's your boy Kirk. It's your boy Kirk M. Samuels.
And it's this guy, Jason B. Kendrick.
And we are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
That's right. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
For you, baby. I had to adjust my head for a second because my head was all up underneath the square. So I had to adjust my head to get it off up underneath the square. I mean, bad
That's
enough
what she
I got
said.
a square head, man. You know.
That's what she said.
See, there you go, man. That's why we that's why we can't have nice things, man. That's why we can't have nice things, man. I'm telling you,
nothing
man.
nice right here.
But in case y'all don't know, of course, we're on 1220 AM in the Mile High City, KLDC, YouTube, Facebook, all that kind of stuff, madmenradio.com, all of that kind of stuff. And so we have our show over the air that airs Saturdays at 8 a.m. in Denver and then Wednesdays at 6 p.m. And then we normally come back. And so we get in the studio on Mondays, get that in. We stream that as we're doing it. Last year we had this past week we had a guy, as we were recording this, I guess it'll be coming out this weekend, but Alex Yakubovich in there, man, and he kind of had some good insights, man. He's a guy that is not on his first marriage. He's on a do-over marriage, and he and his wife, they just kind of came together, man, and they just have it. And if you follow them on social media, man, they're just fun, and I just like them as people, and they're all about keeping relationship fun and keeping the relationship and being the main thing, man. It was a great conversation.
Yeah, it was nice to have an example, to bring somebody in, because we talk about all these things, and it's so nice to have an example of somebody who's having a successful, fun, loving, intimate relationship like that, who's putting that work in. And then everything he's saying, we're like, see, I told you. See, that's what we said. See, I told you. Yeah. And so having him as just a regular dude, if you need a car concierge, call Alex, because that's his business. He's been doing it like 25 years. So you want a vehicle, you don't want to go get ripped off or go to the auction, call Alex to hook you up. But beyond being a good person for vehicles and being the car concierge kind of person, him and his wife, they are a great example of how most of us, like when we see like in our minds how we want our relationship with our wife or our significant other to be, that's a great example because they're having so much fun. And his videos, man, just him scaring his wife all the time, it's hilarious. Yeah. And then the fact that she's like, I think you asked him, you had to make that call to make sure it's okay. He's like, no, she know who she married. I'm like, yeah. And that's why we wanted to do this episode, because one of the things he said was when they got together, she, not him, because we're dudes, so we may have to educate ourselves a little bit about this slowing down thing, but she slowed it down. And they took the time to really get to know each other and who am I jumping into this thing with and who are they really? And, I think slowing down is probably going to be our number one tip for most folks when coming into relationships nowadays.
One of the things I liked about that conversation was that he's just a normal dude. Like, he wasn't some guy coming on with, all these degrees or books or tapes or this
nothing wrong with that.
And speaking. There's nothing wrong with that kind of stuff. We got ours, you know what I'm saying? Where's it? Where's the one right there? And right there, if I point right. But there's nothing wrong with that, and he's not one of those guys that, me and my wife have been married 50 years. We met at 6 years old when we were both young, and we were virgins when we got married, and we figured it out. We got married at 18, and we had it all.
We met in the incubator.
No, man, this guy, he went through divorce. He was out there on that scene, and then he met, and he did it right, man. So I love the conversation, man, because he was just. Just a normal dude, nothing to prove, nothing to gain other than just, helping folks out with insight and that. But yeah, man, the whole idea of slowing down, man. The whole idea of chilling out. And we try to come back when we do these midweek or semi midweek conversations and do it shorter. It's an hour early in the week, and then we do 30 minutes. So this will be a quick conversation. But either way, the whole idea of slowing down, man, the whole idea of not going from 0 to 60, especially when you're in your 40s and 50s and you meet somebody and you finally weave your way through the online dating thing or however you met, and now you got the person, and now all of a sudden you want to go straight to, you want to go straight to, to the max,
The
to
good
the top.
stuff.
It's not cool, man. It's just, it's not a good way to go.
Well, I mean, I know I've had the experience. I know a lot of probably our audience have the experience where you're like, well, we're grown folks. We're already, we've been through it. We've seen the strings. We know the puppet show, all that stuff. So why mess around? We might as well just get to it. But like to Alex's example, if this is somebody you're thinking about long term, now if it's just a casual thing, you do you. But if you're actually thinking about like, okay, I want to have a real relationship, a real intimate relationship, slowing down is so ideal. I mean, it's so necessary because just look at chemically, in the oxytocin and all the serotonin and different chemicals, the hormones in the brain that make you feel like you're falling in love can last up to 18 months. So you may be in, star-crossed lover syndrome. You might not even be in your right mind for a year and a half. And this person may or may not be who you really think they are. But one thing Kirk and I were talking about before we got on air was that a lot of times, especially nowadays, if you've been through trauma, if you've been through divorce, if you're looking for the second marriage or third or something like that, and you haven't done the work to heal from your past traumas and past relationships and stuff, a lot of times those butterflies and the feeling like you got chemistry and the electricity can be trauma bonding because they're matching that frequency, and that's why that. That's the one guy you get attracted to or whatever. So having time to make sure that guy isn't somebody you're trauma bonding with, or that they really are who they say they are, or that girl, because girls are better at it than we are, guys. So they can hide it a lot better than once they get what they need, or once they decide that, okay, here's somebody I want to manipulate or whatever, because we're guys, we're simple, we are easily manipulated. But taking your time, you can only pretend for so long before it's like the red flags come out or the masks come off, and then you go, oh, now I know who this really is. And that was what was so telling about Alex's relationship, is like they both know who they are. Like he even said he has no passwords against any of his stuff to his wife. She knows everything. She can get into everything. They totally trust each other, and they know exactly who they are. And I'm sure that took some time.
Yeah, in this country, I feel like in our culture, we get so addicted to stuff, man. We have a very addictive nature to our culture. And when I say addictive, I mean we are very driven by chemicals. And some of those chemicals are self-induced. Some of them are just we can find ways to produce them in our brain and all these other kind of things. Some people get maybe consume something. Some people maybe, some of us smoke cigarettes. Some of us drink. Some of us consume an inordinate amount of porn. Some of us, consume TV, food, work. Sports, you name it, all kinds of stuff. But either way, it's to stimulate all kinds of chemical reactions. And I think one of the biggest culprits is in the dating field, man, because first of all, and I've been there too, man, where I was at a point in my past where I used online dating for recreation.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just another thing to literally to swipe and to click and the whole novelty generates dopamine in your brain. And we love dopamine in our brain. And so, but we just get so fixated on this rush and the feeling and the chemicals and, the dopamine, the oxytocin, the testosterone, the endorphins, kind of that love cocktail. And we get so hooked on that stuff, man, that it's like we chase that high over and over again. If you ever find someone or know someone who, there are people out there who are in online dating with no intentions on, like I said, for me in that case, no intentions on getting a relationship. They just like going out on dates. They just like dating. They don't want a relationship. And then sometimes when we get a relationship, we just chase that thing. So to your point, man, we just, we get so hooked on the feel goods and we don't give it time for the feel goods to wear off and figure out who we really have before we declare who they really are.
Yeah, I think the biggest reason to slow down, not just because of the chemistry and stuff like that, is that it really, to create true intimacy, to create true trust, to create the things that make a long-term lasting relationship like successful takes time. You have to build that with each other together, and that takes time. And when we just dive right in, which I'm speaking from experience, I have been, the king of diving in and just being like, come here, and then, trauma bonding, love bombing, whatever you want to call it. And it gets to a point where you can almost see what's coming down the road. Like, you almost see, I know how this is going to go. And so being able to slow down and not put yourself through those things, not continue the same addictive patterns, and to be able to get to know somebody truly before you say, hey, let's do this. 'Cause I mean, even to your point with the addictions, we're so addicted to social media and posting on social media and curating these perfect lives that to make everybody else jealous, make us look good. And I've seen some friends and acquaintances and people over there, like, where they post, I found the perfect person, and they're, and then 3 months later, crickets, you don't see nothing. Or, a lot of the codependent stuff where they're just like becoming the other person or jumping into their world and things. And it's just not taking the time. And I think the biggest issue, and I mean, first chapter of the book, look in the mirror, got to take the time to look at yourself before, because we are addicted. We're addicted to social media. We're addicted to substances. We're addicted to hormones and chemistry in our brains. And we're addicted to feeling like we need somebody. And we all get that way. I mean, I don't know. Most of the dumb things I've done in my life was because of chasing after a girl, or needing a relationship, or feeling like I was less than because I didn't take the time to work on myself to heal whatever I needed to heal, or to come into terms with who I am right now, what I actually need. A lot of times we mask our own pains and traumas by the next relationship, jump into the next person, but we keep getting the same person, the same traumatized dating thing in a different body, because we haven't worked on ourselves. So guys, especially for us, because we see that booty, I want to get right in there. Slowing down will save you probably a lot of heartache.
I'd love to hear some stories and some comments, man, about people who either waited or didn't wait. I mean, in terms of went too soon and went too quick and all that kind of stuff. I'd love to hear some of that in the comment section, man. Just in terms of, if you actually waited, and then what you found out when you waited, good or bad. And then if you didn't wait, and if you dove right in, and what you found out, good or bad, man. I'd love to hear, some of these stories out there. But for sure, guys, man. I mean, man, we, man, we get a little sniff, and all of a sudden, man, this is the best thing ever, and it's just not cool, man. I mean, we can be so manipulated, guys wise, sexually, that is so easy for us to just get off track and to let all of that cloud out everything else. I mean, I'm telling you, when you let all of that cloud out your judgment, all of those red flags become like pink or fuchsia, and then they become kind of light pink, and then and then they put them in a washing machine again, and add a little bleach to it, and then that pink becomes a little faded, and next thing you know, you're like, oh man, this is great, man, and it's like, bruh, I mean, first of all, it ain't gonna be like that forever. Matter of fact, it probably ain't gonna be like that for a very long time. That good as it is in the beginning. So man, guys can get so hooked on that, and women can get so hooked on the the knight in shining armor kind of syndrome or scenario where, man, this guy is great. Well, he's great because in the beginning he's putting up a front. A knight in shining armor means he's never been in a battle, right? And if all he shows you is his shining armor, then man, it looks great, and it looks great in a fairy tale, and you can let your hair down and out of the tall window, and he can climb up and come get you, and all this other kind of, he can rescue you and be all this other kind of stuff. But meanwhile, it's all a front. It's all like Hollywood. It's, you drive down the street, it looks like a neighborhood, but as soon as you look behind it, there's nothing there. And so women get caught up in that whole thing as well, in terms of everything they thought he was in the beginning. Just like sex for men, that ain't gonna last for a long time, ladies. Like, guys can only hold up that front for so long. And some of the reason they're holding up that front is because you are also holding up your front on the other end as well. And so when the realness starts to kick in, and it's like, your breath kind of stink in the morning. Like, ooh, like, you know what? I walked in the bathroom accidentally after you, and something crawled up in you and died. I mean, when you go through some stuff like that, when you see how they chew when they're not trying to be polite, and man, on and on and on, man. When you see her without a bra on, I mean, I could go on and on in terms of the reality of the situation, man. When you see what happens, yeah. I mean, whatever. I'll chill because I'm about to go off the chain. But when you start to see the realness, then that's when
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's like, okay, this, like Eddie Murphy say, I thought this was Ritz. This is just crackers. It's just regular old crackers. And
Yeah.
so that's the kind of stuff that happens in the beginning, but it's all chemically based.
Yeah, and one thing that popped in my head when you're talking to the dudes. So, dudes, one of the reasons you want to slow down and take your time, because sometimes that we're on YouTube, we can say it, that post nut clarity is going to save your life, because you, like he was talking about, you miss all the red flags that turn peak and bubblegum and fuchsia, and you think, oh, this is just her feminine wiles and she's amazing, and then after fact, you're like, once the testosterone's down and you calm down and your mind is clear, you go, hang on a second, what am I doing? Who am I with? So taking your time to slow down, because if you get caught up, that whatever it is, that 10 or 15 minutes of you being blindsided and foggy in the brain because all the blood's rushing down south and you can't think straight, that could end up really bad for you. I mean, something to think about, because we are wired to spread our seeds and go after all these ladies, but sometimes, especially nowadays, it can be very dangerous for us to do that. So slowing down and taking your time. I mean, we're adults. Most of us are in our middle years, 30s, 40s, 50s here. So I think what we really need is more honesty. And for us guys, a lot of times it's really devastatingly scary to try to be honest with a girl pretty soon. Like, I've tend to, I think, sometimes go over the deep end sometimes, because I'm like, I'm gonna be my real self right up front. They're gonna like me, and then they go running because they're like, this dude, what the? So, but getting to that being real, like Kirk was saying, getting to who you really are takes some time. You got to find that person that you can vibe with, you can communicate with, that can accept you for who you are, and then start peeling those layers off, peeling those masks off, and going, is this somebody, like, because we're human beings, we're all going to irritate each other, but is who they are, their quirks and things, something that you can be okay with? And you're only going to find that out if you take your time and slow it down a little bit. Because I know in my experience, there's been times where I got love bombed, or I did love bombing, and then after like 2 weeks, it's like, I got to run. I got to get out of here. I could have saved myself some time by slowing down a little bit and figuring out who this person was in the beginning.
You talk about the whole dating thing and too much of yourself and all that stuff. That takes me back to even my online dating days. Man, I found out that for sure on Match, and I forgot which other ones as well, there's a 2,000 character limit to your personal description. How do I know that? Because I used all 2,000 words to
Maxed it out.
describe myself, man. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put it all out there. I'm going to talk about everything I do, everything I'm about. Part of it was I was trying to prove myself in terms of worth. I was trying to prove value in a dating profile, which you can't do. I mean, I had my 10K run time. I had, man, all kinds of flowery stuff and authors speak blah 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 book and all this other kind of crap, man. That man, I was like, it was doing too much, man. And it was like, and then I realized, wait a minute, these people reading this profile, they don't deserve to know everything about me right up front. They haven't earned all of that yet. So at one point, I took all of that out and I put in 3 words in my profile: the intimacy incubator. That's it. Man, my inbox like blew up. I mean, it was the complete opposite. I was like giving them the Heisman, man. And then I realized that, man, I was doing too much. Like, I needed to slow down. I needed to let them discover some stuff. as well as let them earn access to everything that I am and the person that I am, as opposed to trying to invite people to my next speaking gig or tell people about this and that. I'm all like, oh, it's like, man, slow down, dude. Just put it out there, especially if you the guy. You got to be the iceberg, man. You got to be the no, they're going to need to discover some of this, man. I'm not just going to give it all to you in the beginning. Guys, we got to be able to say no to sex because nowadays they want to hook us with the sex like sooner rather than later. And they want to try to get us in if they can get us locked down with the sex. And some of them are just trying to put up numbers too. We got to be willing to say no to sex. Like, nah, I'm not impressed by that. You got to come with something more than that, especially if you're a man of value. And if you're a man of value, then they need to earn this. Like you need to earn these loins, right? And so you need to be able to say no to sex, and that'll really throw them off when you are not impressed by a quick offer to have some sex. It's like, no, I'm not really motivated by that. I'm not motivated by the low hanging fruit because all the best tasting fruit is at the top of the tree, right? And so so if we ain't ready to operate up there, then I'm not ready to just settle for the little berries that fall on the ground that you just willing to give to any schmuck.
Yeah, and it comes back to, I think, especially when it comes to dating, when you're trying to find the one or trying to, and probably you got to get rid of that whole thought process of the one, because there's not just the one. There's lots out there that might be a match, but you got to go through the vetting process and holding yourself to value, because I think a lot of times when we overshare in the beginning when we're trying to prove ourselves, prove our worth to somebody else, especially on a dating, like online dating profile, or even in a singles group, whatever, where you're already dropping your business card and all your accomplishments, shows a bit of, lack of self-esteem, a bit of not feeling like, self-worth or whatever. So yeah, I think if it comes to dating, slow down. You want to, if you're actually trying, and of course, if you're actually trying to find somebody long-term. If you're just trying to find short-term, there's plenty of folks out there that'll, give it up real quick and you have a good old time. But it's about what you want and what your standards are and what your boundaries are. And I think most guys nowadays, because of how just society is and kind of being against them, haven't taken the time to slow down or don't want to, because they're constantly in the chase mode, constantly in pursuit mode, just trying to get some, because it's so hard out there to get any attention or to get anybody to give them any attention. So maybe slow down. And I think that's what the high value guys do. They know they have options. They have an abundance mindset. So they don't just accept whatever. They don't do those things. And they get a lot more play. They get a lot more attention because they don't. They stay a little mysterious. They stay a little bit on the edge and don't just accept whatever comes their way. But of course, you got to decide for you. The real delineation and decision you have to make is, do I want to have a serious relationship, or is this just a fun kind of casual thing? Because once you decide you want to have a serious relationship, then like anything else in life, you got to take it seriously. Take yourself seriously. Take the relationship seriously and slow down. Do your research, do your vetting, and find out who this person is. Because with social media and all the other things, I mean, you might be thinking you're getting one thing and then you get that bait and switch. Get that like scam phone call. All of a sudden you're like, where am I at? What's going on? Next thing you know, you wake up in a ice bath with your kidneys gone. You thought you were going out on a date.
He said ice bath with somebody gonna slip something in your drink, and next thing you know, you're gonna be trafficked somewhere for your organs or something like that. I was one of the things, man. I had several first dates back in the day that were 5-6 hours long. I mean, and I mean, man, I just knew like, oh, I found it. Like, I've Indiana Jones and I found the Temple of Doom kind of thing, or the golden monkey, or whatever you want to call it, whatever he was chasing. And and ultimately looking back, I really was just trying to song and dance my way, say all the right things, do all the right things, and prove my worth. And ultimately, it's not even game, it's just reality. When you try less, you get more in terms of especially those initial stages of dating. Because I think, somewhere in there, even on one of those dates that were 5 hours, if an hour or maybe two into it, I said, you know what? I got to get on, I got something else going on, let's follow up some other time or whatever. Either way, pump the brakes a little bit and spread this thing out. Like, I'm not giving you everything up front, because when I give you everything up front, there's nothing left for you to go after, to discover, to earn, to all these other kind of things. And I think, again, context of long-term relationship building. It just hit me a second ago that, having just gotten engaged, I've been in this relationship prior to proposing longer than my first marriage. I mean, I
Talk about
mean,
slowing down.
talking
My man
about,
learned his lesson.
I'm like, dude, we ain't going nowhere. Like, we cool. Let's walk this thing out. This is a marathon. It ain't a sprint. It's the whole bull and the father bull and the son bull on the hill. And let's get in. No, let's get in it. Let's have them all. And and so it's one of them things that's like, no, how about let's slow down in this thing, man. Let's get our priorities right. Let me see who you are year after year after year, before I blend my life, my money, my home, my heart, my soul legally with yours and all this other kind of stuff. No, and then when that pans out, man, I mean, it's a good feeling. But I think, especially from a guy perspective, man, you got to be able to slow down. And again, I mean, I've seen it several times, even from women, that, man, they go from single to all of a sudden all over their social media timeline is this new guy, and he's the greatest thing, and he loves my kids like his own, and all this other kind of stuff, and blah 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 blah. And then, like you said, next thing you know, it's crickets, or next thing you know, all men are dogs, and all men cheat, and all men, all this other kind of stuff. And it's like, no, he just lost interest after a while, because he was chasing the shiny object. He was chasing great sex. I mean, so it just is what it is. Maybe you didn't take long enough to vet him before you allowed him full access into your home, and especially into your kids' lives.
Yeah, I think one of the things we neglect to even mention or talk about a lot of times is that if it's going to be a long-term relationship, if you want it to be long-term, why are you rushing into it? Why has it got to be so fast? If this is going to be a lifelong or quarter life, or if it's going to take 15, 20, 25 years of your life, why are you trying to rush into it within 6 months or 8 months or a year? Take your time, because taking your time is where you build those skills, you build the connections, you build the intimacy to make it a long-term relationship. I mean, and that's why making that decision of what do you want? Is this a marriage? Is this a long-term relationship? Is this a partnership, or is this just a fun thing? Though that will help you decide pretty quickly how slow to go and what the gist or the goal of the relationship is. And even to your point earlier, less is more, especially when you're dating guys. I know we get so excited and all get all our hormones going, but listen and ask questions, because ladies like to talk, and if we let them talk, we will learn all the things we need to learn. But believe them when they say things. It's just like ladies. When a guy says something, believe him when he says it. I don't know how many times we've run across ladies, we've had to have this conversation of, what did he say? That's what he meant. You don't have to turn it around and turn it into, well, maybe he meant this, or maybe he was this. No, he probably meant that. But being able to slow down, take a break, listen, and pump the brakes, like you said, might probably save you a lot of pain and trauma in the future. Because what's your goal? You want to be happy? Well, you might want to take your time and figure out who this person is that you're trying to be happy with. But it's all up to you. We're just here to give you some advice. We're using Alex as our example, and he said pretty much the same thing.
Pretty much. And I'll finish with this, man. First of all, there's no need to tell everybody, social media wise. A lot of times you're doing that for other people, not even for yourself. You want to, you're doing that to impress your girlfriends or to impress whatever your social circle is. So there's no need to tell everybody. If you're in love, just be in love, but then on top of that, I'll say, guys, be careful of the predatory sex women out there that, they can get a man, but they can't keep a man. And they can get a man because they freaky. I mean, and they do stuff that you didn't think women like to do. I mean, et cetera, et cetera. And so you got to be careful with that, man. We got to be willing to say no to sex. I mean, in terms of, especially all those beginning phases. And women, you got to be careful about the knight in shining armor, the guy that's, I'm not saying is too good to be true kind of thing, but give it a minute. Let's see. I mean, hopefully it is true, but truth is a marathon. Truth ain't a sprint. Truth proves itself over time and not in an instant. So give it a minute, especially before you start professing, everything that you are to this guy. And it's like, is he really going to deal with your small kids like year after year, though? I mean, all these other kind of things. And so I'd say, guys, be careful, ladies, be careful, but above all, don't be in a hurry to like tell everybody and blast everything all over social media. After a while, it kind of get you too old for all that, man. This ain't middle school, kindergarten.
Yeah, one of the things Alex said that you reminded me of, which I think we have to reiterate: slow down, take your time, quit posting everything, because that invites all the outer people, all your social media people to get in your business, basically. And it's hard enough to get to know somebody one-on-one, but then when you add in all these other people, that's one of the things that Alex was talking about, is like they had to edit a lot of their people they had a single friends, or they had this person or that person. And once they got together and prioritized each other, they started editing their people, and they made sure that they opened up everything. They talked about everything. So sometimes you got to keep it on the down low. Just let it be you two until you know what you're getting into, until this is the person, and then maybe make a small thing. But I mean, it's so hard to get to know each other, especially nowadays. We're all traumatized and afraid of getting hurt again, that all we're doing is bouncing from one pain to the next, instead of slowing down, working on ourselves, getting with somebody that we can actually build something with, and quit inviting everybody else into your business. Keep it on the down low, take it slow, get to know each other, and you'll have a much better success rate in the long run. Until next time, Madmen
out.